with a handicap.
All right, well, we're going to start now. Welcome. Well, we're going to start now. Welcome, everybody, to the October meeting of the Human Relations Commission. Thanks for being here. We'll start with roll call. Mary?
Commissioner Alasani?
Here.
Commissioner Chen?
Here.
Commissioner Gordon Gray?
Here.
Commissioner Onan?
Here.
Commissioner Savage? Vice Chair Stinger?
Here.
Chair Stone?
Here. Okay. Any agenda changes, requests, or deletions? Okay. We'll move on to oral communications from the public. We have one speaker card. Deborah.
Go right over there, Deborah, so they can hear you on the microphone, please.
Okay. My name is Deborah Sen. This is the second time I visit with you guys. And so today, I'm at Leadership Palo Alto training today. That's Valerie was invited to speak to us. So, and I mentioned to her about two events. Chinese immigrant community is going to pull out this calendar year, and she said I should definitely come to talk to you guys. I said, okay, that's a great idea. Anyway, that's what I'm come to talk about today. So I will be brief. So since there's two events, I would say starting last year, the Chinese immigrant community has been putting out two events for the whole Palo Alto community, okay? And so the one event is called Emergency Preparation Fair, okay? And another one is Chinese New Year Fair, okay? So Emergency Preparation Fair, this is the third year we're doing that, okay? It's going to be next Sunday, next Sunday in Adolescent. Elementary school. So I'll leave this two flyers to you guys. And again, I come here is to invite all of you to attend. And these two events we host our goal is to use this as a community building event, and we would like to have non-Chinese immigrant people to come. Okay, so one side it's hard to say. Okay, how come? These immigrants don't show up, Chinese don't show up. But on the other side, when there is a Chinese immigrant event, how come all the Americans don't show up? Okay, so we need both sides to work on that, okay? So anyway, so this is the Sunday, and it's very popular actually. Have 400 or 500 people last year show up, okay? And then another event, we're starting planning that, it's Chinese New Year Fair, which this, passing February was the first time we did that. It was phenomenally successful. We have 1,200 people show up, okay? And I think majority are Palo Alto people. There are some out of towner. So it was in it's February, March or February 22nd or something this year anyway. And we invited mayor, both mayor and superintendent came. Mayor really enjoyed that. He was playing mahjong, So we have performance and Chinese culture exhibition, and it was very successful. And also there's over 20 parents. They have different team put out special Chinese New Year finger food, and we sold the finger food and then donate all the proceeds, $4,000 to school district. Okay, so it was phenomenally successful. So we're planning to do it every year now. So now we just established a new committee to plan for the next year. Will be February 11th. So we would like to invite all of you to attend. And again, we try to, our goal is to increase non-Chinese immigrant attendance, because community building, you need those people to be there, right, to build. So we will coming up with an idea how to get people to connect, maybe a little car, say, I am, can we have coffee time or something? So we are brainstorming right now. But anyway, so Valerie suggested me to come to talk to you, and then we can start thinking about that. We still have some time. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for your attention.
Great, thank you.
Do you have a soft copy so then I could send out?
Yes, I can send it to you.
Yeah, send that to me, and then I can get that to all the members.
Okay, I will do that
We'll
tonight.
just leave these a couple for now, but then I'll send them out.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
What was the time of the event on Sunday?
2 to 4, October 23rd. Okay, I'll pass that down. Thank you.
Just sent it, Mary.
Okay, we'll move on to approval of minutes. Our first is Ending Chronic Veteran Homelessness Summit that we had. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I make a motion.
Oh, all right. Well, I think Commissioner Ahsani beat you to the buzzer. He made the first motion. You want to second it?
I second.
Okay, we got a second. All who approve the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Any abstain?
Me.
Okay, Commissioner Nan. So that will pass. And the domestic violence minutes. I have a motion to approve that. I'll make the motion. Anyone wants a second?
Second.
Great. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstain?
I abstain.
Okay.
I was in there.
Okay. So 2 abstain, 1. Okay. Well, still passes with 4. Fantastic. Moving on to our business mental health learning series. Minka, you want to make the introductions?
Yeah, I'd like to invite Philippe and Christine up to the table. As you know, Adolescent Counseling Service has been a longtime partner of the city of Palo Alto. I was looking back at some of our old HISRAP grants, and in 1984, when we started HISRAP, Adolescent Counseling Service was one of the first grantees for that and could have been receiving city funding before that. So Philippe Ray is their longtime executive director, and Christine Tam is the school and community-based services director, and I work with Christine on the Project Safety Net leadership team as well. So welcome, and you do have to use the microphone so you can share, or I think you'll need to share.
Okay.
But welcome. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us this evening. Since there are many new members of the HRC, I thought maybe a quick introduction of who we are and just to give you an idea of the leadership of Adolescent Counseling Services. So I've been the executive director now for 12 years, and the thing that I love the most about Adolescent Counseling Services, it's because it focuses only on individuals during a time of their lives that, as we know, is the most difficult, and that's adolescence and young adult. And I'm sure all of us, it's easy for all of us to go back to a place and a time during our adolescence where we remember times that were not as fun. And many adolescents are there currently. For my own experience, so I grew up a world away from here, grew up in French-speaking Switzerland, and I experienced the burden of adolescence full blast. So when I was a young boy, my sister, who was a teenager at the time, started developing substance abuse problem. And for anybody who's grown up in a family where there is substance abuse, you'll relate to what I'm saying. But before I would come home at night, I knew that my sister was either under the influence or had been acting out or had passed out or was somewhere in the house. And I had this feeling even before home. I mean, as a young boy, I knew something was going on. Then I would step into my home and I would know. And I knew it was verified. I was actual. So I felt that. And then I would watch my parents in silence suffer. I mean, they felt guilty. They felt like they possibly were responsible. They were trying. And basically denial became the rule of the house, as well as the code of silence. So in my family, we never talked about what was going on with my sister, and everybody was suffering. So when I was 12 years old and I started questioning my sexuality, I knew that my home was not the place I could go, to my parents. I mean, these are the people who bore me. I couldn't go to them and express my feelings. So this left me depressed, isolated, anxious, at times suicidal. So now bringing myself up to the current, the reason why I'm the head of ACS is because I'm pledging to my staff, to the community, I do not want anyone to go through what I went through as a kid, and that's why I've been there for 18 years now and 12 years as the executive director. So it's my passion, my life, I've dedicated everything to this organization. So Adolescent Counseling Services, quick overview. So for the past 41 years, we've helped 75,000 lives in the greater community between San Mateo and Santa Clara County. And we do that through 4 programs, and we do that through comprehensive support, education, and we also make sure that we provide an environment that's safe and accepting for our youth in our communities. So just to give you an idea, so comprehensive support. So each year, so last year, and our fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th. So last year we provided one-on-one counseling, continued counseling, psychotherapy to 2,200 youth in our communities as an agency. In terms of our education, we, as an organization, train the psychotherapists of the futures. We train over 60 clinical interns that we call each year for them to then be ready for licensing and become the therapists of the future. And as you may imagine, there are not that many people that choose to work with adolescents, but we are the expert and we pass on all those skills to others that then will be able to do that for teens. And then through making sure that we help communities, we make communities safer, our outlet program provides education to over 6,000 people each year in the community. So that's school districts, organizations, corporations, where they go in and educate on how to make their workplace, schools place safer for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals. So big impact as an organization. The other thing in conclusion is you all know that in the United States, 1 out of 5 youth suffers from a major mental illness. And what really, and I'm on camera, I'll still say it, what really upsets me, I usually use the P word, piss me off. But what really upsets me is 1 of 5 suffer from that, but only 30% of youth needing help receive treatment in our country, and that's unacceptable. Because if you compare it to physical health, let's say if we had kids who suffer from, let's say, asthma, and we would only allow only 30% to be treated, we would all be outraged, we would all be taking it to the street, we would be screaming. But we as a nation, we as a community accept that only 30% of our youth, suffering youth, receive any type of treatment. What's the big impact, the big problem? Stigma. We still live in a community, we still live in a society where it's looked as a weakness for anybody to approach a counselor to seek help. And I think what's and it's really sad. I mean, it's part of the human experience. It's part of life, but people are still afraid. Families are still afraid to come out and say we have a problem. Individual is still afraid. And I think what we can all do as a community, as individual, is make sure that one, we all come out, because guess what? We all know somebody. Mental illness affects us all directly and indirectly. So for all of us to come out and say, you know what, I have a son, I have a father, I have a sister, anybody, and just help them get access to mental health. So us being here tonight, again, is raising the awareness and helping decrease stigma. In terms of the Palo Alto community, and just based on I think tonight, there is this myth out in the community that we have moved out of Palo Alto. We have not. So what happened in March is that we were operating out of 1717 Embarcadero, where we had our both administrative offices and our counseling offices. They tripled the rent on us, basically going up to $221,000 a year rent. We can't afford that as a nonprofit. So what we did is we moved our administrative office and expanded into San Mateo County. So we have 8 counseling offices in San Mateo County. And then through the generous support of Santa Clara County and Jose Median, who helped us secure 5 counseling offices south of California Avenue, we maintained our services here in Palo Alto. So when it comes to the numbers, we haven't seen a difference from year to year And actually, we are seeing an increase in Palo Alto residents seeking services at our Grant. It's on Grant. It's a Grant Avenue location because it's easier to access from public transportation, and it's right on the Caltrain and so forth. So it's actually been a more positive move for Palo Alto residents for us to be at Grant than when we were in Embarcadero. But all that happened is basically an expansion into San Mateo County, and then, as I said, through the generous donation from Santa Clara County, Joe Simedian, we're able to secure those offices, and we have a lease for $0 rent for the next 5 years. So it's quite amazing. I mean, they understood the need for adolescent counseling services to remain in Palo Alto in North Santa Clara County. So that's why they were able to secure those offices for them. We're so grateful, and the kids that we're seeing there are so grateful. So that's my part. And if you want to know, just as an idea, out of the offices, we, in terms of Palo Alto residents, so total at those offices, and this is the 5 offices we have there. So on average, during a year, we see close to 358 clients. And out of the 358 closed, it's about 126 are Palo Alto residents only. Because, again, we pull from Mountain View and Menlo Park and so forth. So that's the total, 358, 126 during the year, just Palo Alto zip codes. So far, since the beginning of our fiscal year, so July 1, Palo Alto residents, we've seen 40 at the Grant Avenue location. So it fits the trend again. So it's about 1/3 of what we're seeing there. Christine?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, microphone.
Yep, I gotta speak in the mic. Again, my name is Christine. I'm the Director of School-Based and Community-Based Services with Adolescent Counseling Services. So as many of you probably know, we do contract with the PAUSD district with the secondary schools. So we provide free on-campus counseling at the 3 middle schools as well as the 2 high schools. This year at the high schools, we have between 5 to 6 interns being supervised by a full-time licensed person at each of the sites. And then at each of the middle schools, we have between 2 to 3 interns being supervised by a half-time licensed person at each of the sites. So last year, we served about over 630 individuals through the on-campus counseling program at OCCP in Palo Alto. And we provided around over 3,500 counseling sessions among all of the different schools. So just to talk about the trends that we've seen in the kids that we've seen. So academic stress, anxiety, and depression are usually, we track these each year, and over the years, it's like, academic stress is one, and depression, it's almost like the college ranking where like there's Princeton, and but it's those 3 that keeps on coming up over and over again. And just anecdotally, and interacting with the youth myself, and speaking with my staff, those are the academic stress is really something that's on a lot of our kids' minds, really feeling the pressure of having to achieve and to succeed. Other issues that we often see are around family relationships, so families that have divorce relationships or untraditional sort of family structures. Kids oftentimes struggle in those situations. And then substance use. Interestingly, I would say a lot of, because they usually get referred, kids don't usually get referred for substance use, but in the course of us working with them, oftentimes what we realize is that because of the stress and anxiety and the depression, that they are self-medicating using marijuana, alcohol, the most common, and it seems like prescription drugs are also something that's been coming up quite a bit lately. But in terms of strengths, I feel like that, Palo Alto is really lucky to have a really great group of young people in their community. Every one of them that I've encountered with, they just show so much they're bright and they're articulate, they're motivated, they want to do the right thing in spite of the challenges that they may face in trying to achieve that. And the one thing that is very touching is that they care about their peers a lot. So we've had youth come to us donating. These are high school kids who would donate money to ACS because they recognize the challenges that their peers are facing around mental health. So we get youth like that taking initiatives. We have I spoke with a girl who built an app, to help kids cope with stress and anxiety. So those are definitely the strengths of our youth community in Palo Alto. So as far as what our community can do to support youth and their mental health, I think destigmatization is a great thing that our community need to think about how to address. Stigma is still a great challenge in people recognizing mental health issues, also seeking help. So whether that's through outreach events or education programs from the city level, whatever ways that we can do to destigmatize the idea of mental health is really important. The other thing about destigmatization, and this is the last thing I'll say, is that it is important for the adults in the community to model what mental wellness and self-care is. So being able to make mental wellness as important as physical wellness. I hear a lot of sometimes the barriers to access to mental health treatment is like, well, a therapy appointment once a week, that's a lot of driving, or kids are hard to get there. And I get that it's not, it's not the funnest thing to have to drive your kid to an appointment every week. But then at the same time, I think about all of the different activities that kids do get driven to. Exactly. So the soccer practice and dance practice or whatnot, but we do get a lot of, resistance in terms of, it's hard to get them there. So, in a way, if there's any way for us to make mental wellness as important as academic as anything else, as physical wellness, and the last thing about modeling is, it's okay for adults to show that we can ask for help too. That it's okay for us not to be perfect too. That it's okay for us to be vulnerable in front of our children. So I think our kids look up to us. They look up to us in terms of how we handle ourselves, how we, the pressures that we feel ourselves. I feel like they feel that too. And so in reflecting on how we can, as a community of adults, model that for our young people is important. So, yeah.
And the last thing I'd like to add, because I think it's also important to mention in this kind of great economic boom in Silicon Valley, is that we, as a nonprofit organization, what we are experiencing is that the rate at which salaries are going up doesn't match the rate at which the fundraising goes up. So, for example, since 2008, we've seen our salaries double and triple, yet the fundraising hasn't followed. Sadly, especially for this specific fiscal years, because we had some vacancies at some of our sites, we were not able to hire the same rate as we even did last year. So we had to significantly increase the salaries, but unfortunately, the lack of the school district to be able to increase the funding that they support us at, as well as the City of Palo Alto, it basically leaves me and my board to raise just this year close to $294,000 to support just the 5 sites at Palo Alto Unified School District, which is a huge amount for a $1.5 million organization to fundraise. We are willing as an organization to take a $150,000 deficit because we really value the relationship and the services that we provide with Palo Alto Unified School District and the city of Palo Alto. But then there's the other $150,000 basically extra that I and my board and staff have to go out and fundraise. So that's something that I want all of you to be aware that it's not just our situation. I think it's a situation of many nonprofits. For us to be able to attract talent that can do the job and can afford rent, we have to bump our prices. So again, I think where the community can come out is we accept donations. So anybody listening tonight, we're going to launch a big campaign in November about specifically the Palo Alto community in terms of fundraising. So if anybody can help, that would be appreciated.
Great. Thank you so much. What you do for our community is so important, and I've known so many people in my own life and close personal friends who suffer from mental health and depression, and I lost one of my best friends to suicide, and he grew up in Palo Alto himself. So I can't imagine a service more important than the ones that both of you provide. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll open it up to my fellow commissioners for any questions or comments.
I have a question. Something that has been of concern to me over the years is that I hear parents say that they know their kid is in trouble, and they reach out for help, and they're told it's 6 to 8 weeks to get an appointment with a therapist, and the families are desperate. They don't know where to turn, and there aren't beds for adolescents who need inpatient treatment. So can you talk us through a scenario where maybe a child who's troubled comes for counseling at school, and then if it's a serious problem, what is the process, and how can we improve this process to help people get help more quickly?
Yeah. So when a student comes to us, we do see them as soon as we can, and I think in the last year we've successfully been able to restructure a program to avoid any wait list. So I could speak for last school year because I was not here before that, but for last school year we didn't have that problem of having someone needing to wait even 2 weeks to get into an appointment. So we do work hard in terms of the structure of our program, the length of treatment to help not have the wait list that you're talking about. When a student does come to us and we realize that there's a more severe mental health needs that we can't serve in a school setting, we work with the family to connect them to service providers in the community. So whether that's be, Sanford Hospital or PAM or whichever private practice provider their insurance is linked to, we work to connect them to outside providers to meet the level of care that they need.
I had a question. So what is... Am I on here? No. What is the process by which, a student, an adolescent comes to see you? So, I know for myself, when I had depression as a kid, I didn't want anyone to know, and even my parents. And so, how do you actually connect with them? Yeah, usually there's guidance counselors guidance counselors are our main point of referral for all of the schools, the middle and the high schools that we work with. So what generally happens is that their symptom is being presented in the school setting, whether they're missing class a lot, whether they're not doing well in school, if a teacher noticed that they're withdrawn or upset, that teacher may consult with the student first and then consult with the guidance counselor. The guidance counselor then may make the decision to make a referral to ACS. So typically that's how a student receives services. Do the students often say, I don't want anyone to know, or does that come up? That does come up. But we try to help the student understand what we share with parents and what we don't. Confidentiality is extremely important in a therapy relationship. So we try to help our students understand, we don't share everything. We do want your parents to know some general issues that we're working on. When there's a safety concern that trumps everything, we have to then, involve parents and everyone else who's necessary. We also, because the two high schools have
initiated the wellness centers, we've gotten more drop-ins than previously. So now students are feeling more comfortable in coming by. I don't know if any of you have visited the wellness centers in the high schools. They're very welcoming. It's loungy. There's couches. There's snacks. So students will come by on their own. And ask for help, or if they're upset, they want to talk to somebody. And then the other thing is that we also get friends who bring their friends by. So those are usually the main ways. And we have some parents who make direct referrals to us as well.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. What is the most urgent need for your organization? Except for money, I know money needs. And what kind of people, help that you would need to help the students the best?
It's hard to say beyond money, because our bread and butter is our clinicians, right? Like that's our core. That's how we do what we do. And without our clinicians, there's no ACS, there's no services. And in order to be able to secure the clinicians, it goes back to the money. We don't need anything fancy. We don't need a fancy office. As long as there's 2 chairs and 4 walls, we do need 4 walls. And
the
someone,
manpower.
we don't need much besides the skilled clinicians.
I wanted to ask that in light of the suicide clusters that have emerged periodically in Palo Alto, do your clinicians get any special training in recognizing signs or symptoms, or grief counseling after for survivors? So how does that impacted your practice?
Well, I can say that we do train all of our clinicians throughout the year. They have weekly trainings, they have group supervision by a licensed person, and they have individual supervision. So there's constant supervision and training. Specifically around crisis intervention, we do training on crisis intervention, exactly what you were mentioning. How do we recognize the sign? How do we do an assessment? What do we do with the results of an assessment? Who do we kind of involve in the process, and things along those lines? Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm so impressed with everything you do. I want to follow up on the urgent need question again. Not so much the funding, but are there structural things that the school or the city could be doing that would make your job easier, either reduce the number of issues that come to you or make you feel that you were sending a student out into a safer environment?
Yeah, and so, like I said, we need 4 walls, 2 chairs, and a therapist and the client. And so the other need would be the 4 walls, and sometimes it is challenging to get that private space, and it's extremely important to get that private space for kids to feel safe to talk about whatever issues they need to talk about. We've been extremely lucky in the high schools where we have sufficient space to be able to provide the services that we do. We do have some challenges with the middle school sites where we're given one office to share among 3-4 people sometimes, and that's certainly not ideal and not comfortable for us in the setting.
So you mentioned now you're getting free rent at the Palo Alto location for the next 5 years. How have you been able to expand your services? I mean, you're now saving all that money on that rent there. How have you now allocated that to be able to serve more people? Maybe you can kind of give us a little information on that.
So actually, it's not really a cost saving because we are paying rent at our Redwood location. So it was basically a transferring of the old lease in Palo Alto to now the Redwood City location. So in terms of our expansion through the outlet program, we're doing a lot more education and outreach in Santa Clara County. And then in terms of San Mateo County, we are also doing a huge marketing in terms of building up our offices and looking at school sites to be able to expand our own campus counseling program and so forth. So that's where, yeah.
And another question: how would you describe maybe stigma in Palo Alto right now on mental health? I mean, have you seen it improve over the years? Have you seen it gotten worse? Can you I know you can't obviously put a number to what stigma is in Palo Alto, but can you describe at least your insights on that?
So I've been having been in Palo Alto and with Adolescent Counseling Services for the past 18 years. I would say it's gotten better. And the way we measure it is, let's say 7 years ago, we would never have parents contact us or bring their kids to us. That was like a big no-no. I think it was the idea of not in my family, not in my community was pretty big. I'd say with all the community education, because of the suicide clusters putting mental illness, mental health in the forefront, I think a lot of people felt way more comfortable to address issues before they would turn into tragedies. So we started seeing parents contacting us because they were worried about their kids and so forth. The other thing that's always amazing, and I think it's part of the human condition, it's when there is a tragedy, there's a lot of focus onto what's going on, trying to prevent it. And then 6 months, a year down the road, if you don't have the tragedy, then the pendulum swings again. And we see that each time. Be it suicide, be it big drama because of substance use that we've seen maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. It just swings back and forth. But I would say the community as a whole is becoming more educated, more aware, and also a little more hyper-vigilant, which we as professionals actually appreciate, that people are asking the questions about, are you feeling suicidal? Do you want to die? Which are a complete okay question to ask. It actually prevents it. And as I said, 6-7 years ago, we didn't see that. There was more denial. I think the community was more denial than the community is now. So it's good for us to see that.
So what can we do as a community, or as the city of Palo Alto, or as the Human Relations Commission to continue to improve the stigma? Any suggestions?
I think awareness campaigns, education workshops, parents, or even outreaching to parents or churches, or to have those kinds of events, I think would be really helpful. Just community education around mental health. Yeah.
And you can actually follow us because we're starting a campaign. It's going to be called #YouKnowSomebody. And it's basically talking about we all indirectly, directly know somebody who's affected by mental illness.
It's very true. Yep. Anyone else?
I did have another question. The demographics in Palo Alto have changed a lot, especially over the last few years. And sometimes people who come from, say, Asia or Eastern Europe or other parts of the world are not familiar with mental health treatment and may not understand right away that their child needs help or that they need help. So are there efforts being made in ACS to reach out to these diverse communities?
Yeah, so part of our training is making sure that our clinicians are aware of the cultural diversity issues and how mental health looks different in different communities and different cultures. So we do build that into our training for our clinicians. In addition, we try to attract diverse staff. So we have representation from different ethnicity and cultural groups in both of our clinicians and also our supervisor groups.
And that's the reason why I did this.
And how many languages? Do you know?
Oh, I should have checked, but there are a lot this year. There's
it's like 8.
Japanese, Chinese.
I would say on the average, as an organization, we provide between 8 and 10 different languages capacity with our intern and professionals.
Great.
I have one other question. Do you have other volunteers? Well, not. Do you have volunteers? Do people volunteer at ASC?
Yeah, we have one program. So the outlet, the outlet program in particular uses a lot of what we call grown folks. And it's basically people from the adults from the LGBTQ community who then can come back and serve as role models to the youth as role models. The problem with the volunteers is we have fundraising galas, so to where you can participate as volunteers. In terms of the office, because of the confidentiality, we try to keep that to a minimum. So we have clerical help. And sadly, because most people who want to volunteer want to have access to the kids and hear the stories and all that, we can't do that. So
That's what I want.
mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Me too. That's for true. We have two Marys.
I know that.
Mary's in the office. I know. Mary G and Mary C.
She'll always be Mary Nacionalis to me.
I want to be mindful of your time. I remember serving on the commission. So do I still have the full 20 minutes?
Yes, you
Okay.
do. We will not cut you short. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for being here.
So I was just going to give a quick introduction to my colleague and relief staff. Thank goodness for Project Safety Net, a cause that is very near and dear to my heart. And I was very glad when we found Mary to come on staff as our executive director, who is given new life and energy and synergy and bringing people together and working on what we call internally PSN 2.0. So Mary, as she alluded to, was on the Santa Clara County HRC and was chair of that commission. So she has a deep affinity for the work that you all do. And without further introductions, Mary.
Thank you, Minka. Okay, maybe I could just so. Thank you, Chairperson Stone and commissioners for having me here, and also have seen Councilman Corey here. So I have a PowerPoint because that's how I am. But then you also have there in you a copy so you could take notes. So I like to always start off with a quote, and this quote is, "Courage does not always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow." So this is a quote that I had recently shared with our full committee collaborator, but as Minka shared, having known the work that you guys do, the very important work of really being, advancing, the social justice issues and human rights and civil rights for Palo Alto and then being a model for the Bay Area. So what this quote also says is we think of courage, you have to be that superhero and visible and invincible and be fierce. But I think there's also that silent strength that that's important in our work in human rights and human relations, and just really when we're serving the most vulnerable community. And it's like that hope and tenacity and patience. And so, and it's really about valuing the journey and not just the outcome. And so I just wanted to open that up with you. And again, this is a work that's very close to my heart, regardless of what title. And I know Minka gave me a lot of good prep. You're well familiar with Project Safety Net. I think many of you, especially in the community, but you've also, the Human Relations Commission as a whole was also an important partner in its inception and going on. And I was fortunate to meet former past Commissioner Ray Bacchetti when I was a chair. So just as a reminder, our mission is to develop and implement effective, comprehensive, community-based mental health plan for overall youth well-being in Palo Alto. And as you know, for those who are very passionate about youth well-being work, there's different angles: homelessness, dealing with hunger, health, education. But when I came on board, I said it was important to point out the reason why this collaborative came together was really in response to youth suicide prevention and really taking a stand to really address this from a very visible point. So what I plan to do in the next 15 minutes and so forth is just give you an update of where we are organizationally, kind of highlight some of the activities that has happened in the past 9 months. That's since I joined the organization. most importantly, how to engage you all, and I'm sure you probably have some ideas, and hopefully we'll close with more of a dialogue and discussion. And I do want to point out Adolescent Counseling Service is one of the partners that are part of Project Safety Net SU. And the way I see Project Safety Net, we're more of the convener, and really how can we help support all the organizations and the community advocates to do the important work. So ACS being one of them, and just the humility and how they share and the impact. It's like they serve on our leadership team, so they help drive our strategic direction. I appreciate them working with the LGBTQ plus community and really expanding and making a home for them. And even though they're in San Mateo County now, as you know, 1/5 of their budget and their work was started here in Palo Alto, so they have a commitment to this community. So moving on, this is our current leadership team, and Christine Tam being it, and these are representatives, youth serving organizations, city, as well as health providers. We also have working groups. So this being a transitional year, and I know a lot of the good work that the community partners and with the support of the city of Palo Alto and Minka's office, this year is really how to look at transitioning the culture of the work that we do. How do we engage individuals, leaders, community members at all levels, and really move us into action, because a lot of beautiful work has been done, but it's really how do we put that together for about that long-term impact, a lot of the questions that you ask. So many of these work groups were sort of in action when I came on board, but some of them are also in response to some of the activities. And frankly, I wanted the leadership team to be more just advising and focusing on specific projects that they might have a wheelhouse, but really how can we model, if by engaging, then it would inspire community partners to want to also engage. So in this year, the most active groups are the communications work group, the EPA community survey, and infrastructure. I'll talk a little bit more. And then some activity, youth voice, and that's really about raising visibility. And informative face, just kind of having discussion about role and where we want to move into is crisis response coordination and means restriction. And later on, you can see how it's set up is the chairs are represented by members of the leadership team, and then staff. Tanya, have a half-time Tanya Shornack is myself, and then members, and these are just organizations representatives, and just and you can see the I'll talk a little bit more about how we're engaging the youth. So that's about it. So, and then feel free to interrupt me if you choose to, or if not, write little notes on the side so then we can also use time effectively. So when I was hired, I know that the leadership team and the collaborative did a lot of thinking and planning of what can we hope and expect and charge this new executive director to do in the next year. So the 5 primary goals is to establish an executive board. Second is strengthen and shape infrastructure. Elevate and integrate youth voice. So in other words, it's not just listening to them, but also putting into practice what they've shared many years, but also how to help and really infuse, so they're not seen in Project Safety Net as an us or and they, but they're a we, because if you look at the mission, it's all partners. And then evaluate and recommend a fiscal agent. So that was another thing that I really admired about the city of Palo Alto. It's like having been on various coalitions countywide and nationwide, one of the challenges of sustainability is resources, which you just heard. But it said a lot when the city of Palo Alto said that, we are going to dedicate funds to this important work and contribute to this so the momentum doesn't peter out. And then develop a roadmap based on a collective impact model. So a lot of looking at frameworks of how do you bring collaborations together, not just to think about and advise, but again, what are the changes we want to make? And I'm sure Minka and Rob and so forth have given the Human Relations Commission a little bit more detail on that. I will say that I feel, of course, we could do much more, but based on feedback I get from the city staff, community partners, even the youth themselves, that I feel we've elevated, integrated the youth voice, and I'll share more about that. So I feel that's achieved, but there's still more to do. And in regards to strengthen and shape infrastructure, evaluate and recommend fiscal agency and development roadmap, getting a bit 50% or more. And then establishing executive board, that really needs to come up last depending on how we define an infrastructure.
So Mary,
Yeah.
could you tell us what you mean by a collective impact model?
So I'll do this. I have a little collective impact 101. So you don't have this. So, and then Minka can bring in a little bit more of the history. So I think like a couple years ago or 3 years ago, after I've done a lot of strategic planning, look at infrastructure, wanting to, and I believe there were several partners that saw that this model was quite impressive and effective, and one being in East Palo was one EPA. There might have been another organization, either in San Mateo County and so forth, but also through Stanford, through their Social Review Institute. Here's right there. So Stanford Social Innovation Review. Yes. So the bottom line, and this is what I've been learning and also trying to educate, that there's 5 critical components to collective impact. And you may hear it as collective impact. In the past, it used to be partnership development, collaboration. It's just having talked to, this is a framework that's been in existence for ages, that in partnerships. But there are 5 primary focus. It's developing a common agenda. It's why are we here, what we want to do, what do we want to impact. And then a shared measurement. So it's like, how do you measure that impact? What is the data, what is already existing, such like developmental assets to children's health, some assessments that the city does. But how do we share that so it effectively not only makes us accountable, but we can measure progress, measuring stigma,
And also that different partners are using similar measurement tools, so you can, across the collaborative, you're measuring in the same way.
Yes,
so that different partners can go to the same end result because you're measuring the same factors along the way.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for pointing it out. But the key is you have to develop those core benchmarks or key indicators, and of course each partner will measure things additionally depending on their funding source and reporting and stuff. And mutually reinforcing activities. For me, the way I interpret it is like really not working in silos, really kind of assessing and asset mapping, redundancies and gaps, and leveraging each other's work and so forth, which is kind of challenging, having been in nonprofit world for most of my career. It kind of gets enticing to chase the money because you want to keep the doors open, and also you kind of get competitive with your fellow other community partners because again you want to keep those doors open. So and continuous communication is about just sharing people's best practices, our efforts, and so forth. And then finally, backbone support, which predominantly has been the city of Palo Alto, but now having a dedicated investment, 100%, really looking at being that steward for the collaborative. Is that good? Any questions? Okay. And there's additional information. If you like, I'd be happy to send you links, articles, and so forth. So going back. So I think this part is probably will hopefully really touch your heart, hopefully. So there are some highlights for these past months. So as I mentioned, youth engagement. And youth engagement was not necessarily just simply, reaching out at community events or inviting them to meetings, but has been one of the things I think we've been most proud of, and which the low-hanging fruit was when we have these community collaborative meeting, we agendized youth in action, where it allowed, and didn't get to see it in the last meeting, Chairman, but youth organizations or important programs that have touched youth, like for instance the Outlet Project that ACS during Pride Month, which was also not too long after what happened at the Pulse in Orlando. Using that opportunity and talking with the partner, how do you want to take this moment? And so a transgender youth leader spoke in partnership with a board member, both who are residents in Palo Alto, but just really giving them voice, but in the context of the important programs. Then also we have started engaging them in our work groups. Not simply giving advice, but for instance, in our communications work group, we have 6 youths, 3 from Palo and 3 from Gun. They're not only going to be helping with the overall activities of marketing and messaging and in response to the CDC EPA, which I'll share a little bit more, but they're working on 3 projects to help us in defining our campaigns. And I'll share about that. Or working together on developing a curriculum so that other fellow student journalists can understand and also be responsible reporters on the issue of mental illness, wellness, and suicide prevention. And then finally, governance. So it's like how to ensure that sustainability and making sure when the youth are part of this activity, they're an active member and not just done on 2. So we've also in our collaborative meetings, we meet now. We still meet once a month, and since my tenure, they've been averaging about 50 to 60 in attendance. And you have people who are either parents, youth, partners who've been long time supporters in doing this work, as well as individuals who are just very interested. In the last meeting, which Chairman Stone was at, we had a crisis text line. It's a new. They're branching out more in the West Coast. It's a media text media where, if some of you who volunteered in crisis line areas, you have the phone, but sometimes you might be as I understand, in a predicament situation that you can't talk, and so having that silence and that security. We also had the YMCA Palo Alto family also highlight their work on Reach to Rise, and they're looking for mentors. So if you're looking to volunteer, so they were highlighting that. And then we also we were proud to share that working in partnership with Shepherd Mullen, which is the law firm here down just on Lytton, and Youth Speaks Out to launch a Silicon Valley Arts Initiative where they're donating funds so they can decorate their facilities with youth art. And so that's one of the things I'm kind of excited, even though it's $5,000, but I look at it as seed money, but also sort of the messaging of like PSN partnership should be diverse, and how do we draw in more of the business partners, not only for funding, but also raising awareness and stigma and stuff. And then a few more things. So as I mentioned, community campaigns. So 2 of the big things that we did were May Mental Health Matters and September Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, which just recently happened. And in May, if you followed us on Facebook or our Twitter account, we did these 31 stories in 31 days. And these were stories of hope, resiliency, and mental health advocacy. And these were stories that we get just naturally because people share them, and we just highlight them. And many of them are from high schoolers, from practitioners, even just individuals living in the community. In September, the theme for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month was Connect, Communicate, and Care. And so this is where we really invested a lot of time and try to bring in some presence and try to shift culture. That this is one of our cornerstone pieces. So in regards to connecting, we formulated a team for the NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and we had 8 participants. And it wasn't really about fundraising, but raising awareness and coming together. And I have to say, I was proud to say that the majority of our team were youth. There was like, and then we partnered with the county, so just to kind of walk together and so forth. And in regards to communicate, we do that during our community collaborative meetings to kind of highlight the suicide prevention activity works, but also on September 10th, which the city of Palo Alto, along with Palo Alto Family YMCA, co-hosted or sponsored the community health fair, which actually was on September 10th, which is International World Suicide Prevention Awareness Day. So we actually connected with 75 people. And then finally, through 3 trainings, we trained about 50 participants, and there was a nice percentage of youth. We offered 2 questions, persuasion and referral. just curious, how many of you have taken the QPR trainings yet? Okay, so later on, we're going to talk about how to engage on that one. And then also another one that hasn't, I think, has been offered at some organization within Palo Alto, but this was the first time really trying to offer more for the broader community, youth mental health first aid in partnership with the County of Santa Clara Behavioral Health. And it's really not for individuals to become clinicians and diagnose, but just to be comfortable with mental health issues that youth might face. And it was a 2-day training. And then finally, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, EPI-8 on youth suicide. And how many are familiar with that? Okay, good. So I will jump into that a little bit more, but my understanding and what I've learned is that in response to the second cluster of youth suicide that happened in 2014 and 15, a school district learned that CDC and SAMHSA went to Fairfax County in Virginia to do a similar investigation, and learning that said, why can't we have that here as well? And then I'll just go a little bit more into that next. But that's a nice pause. Do you have any questions about what the past accomplishments? Okay. So as I mentioned, the history and purpose of it was to come in, and I think during 2015, working with the county public health department and through the state, was able to secure the CDC to come here to our county. And really, as you may or may not know, it's really an EPI-8 for the whole county of Santa Clara. They're looking at really to assess age range of 10 to 25 years old. They had 4 primary objectives. It's to look at the data that's currently collected. They weren't here to conduct new studies and collect new data, but so they were looking at coroner's reports, mental health data that's collected from the county, but also some data that was provided by the school district and so forth, and other health organizations. But also, they were also looking to do a media sort of an analysis to see how media covered the reporting on the deaths by suicide. Another third component, which is the part that I was really more sort of a liaison after the fact, is taking an inventory of all the community programs and services that focus on youth well-being and suicide prevention. So it didn't have to be the classical, mental health service at ACS. It could be like the teen center, or maybe some of your forums that maybe raised awareness and how to promote respect and so forth. So if you had any data or program on that, that was just collected. So where they came, the CDC team, and they don't only just respond to suicide issues. It's any issues that have a impact on public health. So, right now I think they're focusing on Zika and so forth. So, and the teams are being called into different areas. And so in February, around the time I started, they came in and did their field visits. And so you may have seen all the press and so forth. And over 10 days, they met with nearly 150 community members who've been involved and stakeholders. And I think there was represented some HRC, as well as county and so forth. In the first meeting, and that was you. Okay, so in the first meeting was actually Project Safety Net convening community members. So by the time it was the last meeting, because I was able to sit in several, there was a lot more sharing and so forth. Where they are now, they released preliminary findings, if you saw and you heard, in July, and maybe the data that they've analyzed is just like a quarter or a third. And the hope is they're continuing to do that, and we'll have the final report and findings in either end of December or January. In the meantime, sure, go ahead.
That was county-wide. I think there was some issues
county.
about it wasn't focused on Palo Alto. So
Right.
It felt like you didn't really zero in on the patterns here and causes. So I don't know if you have anything to say
Yes,
about
so that's a good segue because the challenge with the EPI-8 and the following the protocols, they do it for county, but to respect that this was driven and requested by this community. So we've convened an EPI-8 community coordinating committee, which actually is co-chaired by the County of Public Health Department and Project Safety Net to honor and respect that this was because of Palo Alto. The primary, the EPI-8 coordinating committee, there's about 5 jurisdictions or areas of focus, and there's like community representatives, represent education, government, healthcare systems, and members at large. Members at large are like parent survivors or alumni and so forth. And there's about 32 individuals, and I'd be happy to share the information if you like afterwards. And we saw that was very important because they could have had it co-chaired by maybe another sort of countywide community organization. And by asking Project Safety Net to do that, it meant a lot in the respecting where it come from. The primary charge for this community coordinating committee is really not an advisory, and that was the thing that I was adamant. It's like it's a mobilizing committee. It's like how do when we review this report, 3 things will come up. You know, one, it will validate a lot of the good work that's already happening in the communities based on the recommendations. Another one will be like there's gaps. So we haven't really done work in that, or we've done a little bit. What do we want as a community to do and address that? And thirdly, this is probably the one that has been a little bit more controversial. It's like it's not going to answer all the questions, you know. But I think for me, coming from public health and as a community health educator at heart, it will provide sort of the platform for us to continue to say, okay, what is the additional data that we need to better understand what's happening here, or not only here, but maybe happening in other communities. You know, what is some more analysis? So. And then the last thing, it's really communication. It's like, how do we take this information, and because not everyone could be at the table, and of course maybe not the majority of the communities focusing on youth well-being or suicide prevention, but this is such an important work. It's like, how do we infuse and share and disseminate in a way that whether it's the business community or someone beyond the school, maybe private schools who are not been normally at the table, and so forth. So, and that's what we've been discussing in these few months. And then, any questions before I keep moving on?
I wanted to ask. I'm not sure I'm familiar with the term EPI-8. Can you
So,
explain what that is?
so EPI-8 is like epidemic or epidemiology.
Oh.
It's really looking at the study of why certain health issues or incidences are happening.
Okay.
So it's a very public health plus lingo jargon.
I think it has something to do with the EpiPen.
Yeah.
I thought it was epigenetics. So.
So thank you. That's a very good question. I like to say epidemiology because it is an investigation study, because if you do epidemic, it kind of raises. So, and I guess our charge is also that if you go to the Project Safety Net website, you will, we try to keep that information informed. And we also, even though the county is looking at how to address it at the broader level, Project Safety Net, working with the communication work group, is deciding, how to tailor it even more, and which is what I've known and the work that I've done working with different vulnerable communities or geography. It's like, it's good to have those best practices, but how do you tailor it? Because each community is not exactly the same. All right, so engaging you all. So now, if this is a good did you have any questions about what we've done, what PSN so far? Okay, I'll keep. Yes.
2 questions. One very small question. One of your collaborators is the Webster House?
Oh, is it on the? Okay, so we could go there. Well, I do know from the history that
names restriction.
Yeah, let me go here. Let me go back here.
I wondered if you had a broader charter than just the small group, or is there a different?
So, yes.
That was Pat.
Yes, Pat Lau. So Pat Lau was also a consultant for Project Safety Net. She's currently now at Webster House. So
what is Webster House?
It's a Oh, go ahead, because that's part of your area.
Well, it's a senior living facility.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And I knew of Webster House back in the day. Yeah, back in the day when I used to work for the Aging Services Collaborative for Santa Clara County. So means restriction is a work group that is primarily focusing on lethal harms means of dying by suicide. But the focus in the short term has been primarily on the railway, and it's led by Dr. Shashank Joshi. And what he has done is invited a lot of key leaders, thought leaders, advocates, community members to be on this work group. And the first step is to really kind of not telling the city what to do and so forth, but really kind of assessing what are the best practice nationwide. There's been reports from the Minetta Center for Transportation and so forth. And how do you bring that here? And and I see it more like a policy research arm. And then, but also the second part from a practical standpoint is when it comes to signage, what are some important messaging and so forth. And that's what this group can do. I will tell you, and frankly, this is one of the groups that's still in the formative phase because it's trying to develop a structure. What is our purpose? Trying to look not only short term but long term, because even though our clusters are focusing on the deaths by railway, there have been other deaths in this community beyond that. And so, having not been in suicide prevention work or education, what I've learned, it's like you really have to look at the totality of means restriction. But then you focus first on what is the majority, and then hopefully we'll move into that.
Can I ask one more question?
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course.
I thought Project Safety Net was a short-term project. Is there a long-term mission?
So I will tell you what I've learned in the evolution of Project Safety Net. When they first came together, it was a task force,
That's what I meant.
Yeah, that's what you meant. However, after, it had brought in county, Caltrain, United Way, a lot of key groups who are still active here. But after developing that first report, it was like, for me, as someone who's in community health and having come in, I found it very rich, thoughtful and thorough, and really kind of intervening at multiple levels. But once that was done, the group decided, this work is still important and continues to need, because you could look at upstream, promoting youth well-being and so forth. And then when the second cluster happened again, it also was a reminder we still need to do this work. And so then it transformed into a collaborative and so forth. Okay?
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then, fast forwarding again. So this month is National Anti-Bullying Awareness Month. It's not one of our major campaigns as suicide prevention awareness or mental health, but wanted to bring this to your attention, especially on Wednesday, October 19th. Wear orange. And if you follow us, we have little tips and so forth. But it's really looking at about how do we come together, which is very critical to the Human Relations Commission, about kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. So
is it make it orange because of Donald Trump and
being an orange skin? No.
I love the irony though that it's on the third presidential debate the same day. So
I think this was a theme that's exceeded him. They're actually celebrating their 10th anniversary of National Anti-Bullying Awareness Month, and on the side they say like how apropos, where one of the candidates is known to be a bully.
What is the activity to be orange?
So for us, we're really just messaging. You could follow up, but I do know we have links on our Facebook and we've tweeted. If you go to the organization that's leading it, it's the Preventing Bullying PACER organization, so the National Bullying Prevention Center. They have activities that schools can take on, like sign-ons, promoting some kind messages and so forth. So I'll be happy for you to look at that, and you can decide as a commission if you want to take on something in very low-hanging fruit.
I do have to point out
Yeah.
that Irish people don't wear orange,
Yeah.
because William of Orange attacked
Yeah, you got your
Ireland.
orange.
So
Yeah.
this is a politically incorrect color for us.
Okay, well,
But we'll work on
maybe
it.
think of it as yellow and red
Okay.
together. And maybe you could wear yellow and red and we know that's orange. Okay. The other thing, so while we had a Mental Health Matters Month, the walk to raise awareness on mental health and mental well-being, on October 23rd, we're convening another team, and this one is really about raising awareness on suicide prevention, supporting the survivors of suicide, whether it's family as well as the individual, and remembering the lost loved one, like your friend. So ours is not about raising money. It's about, again, coming together. And what's nice, like with NAMI, in the past, and I know community members would do walks, but it was up in San Francisco, so it was very hard. But this is in San Jose, so take Caltrain. It's right there. If you get off the Rod Durden stop, you just walk a few blocks, and you're at the beginning of the race. Not the race, but the walk. And as you know, there's many community leaders here who are involved in this as well. And I think it gives a message that if Project Safety Net and committee, the committee, and we just want to be sort of a vehicle to do that. So now, so if you want to learn more about Project Safety Net, so I'm just going to rush through some of this. I know I've passed my 20 minutes, but just kind of, I know that maybe the last time that the Human Relations Commission presented to you, Tanya came on board as part-time and continues to be part-time. And one of her efforts was really, because of her strengths, it's marketing, communication, and education. It's kind of really find a way to make it accessible, the work that we do, but also vice versa to promote the work that partnership. So this is our website. If you haven't had a chance, see if you can go. So here's some key information I wanted to share with you. Was like in activities and events, there's we also highlight youth activities and events. So if you want to know for your own family member, youth, or organization, these are a litany of the wonderful programs that are focusing on youth, but also driven by youth. So again, and then about us and wanting to know who are our current partners. And for me right now, as we're going through this transition, and I know in the past there were MOUs and so forth, but it's like anyone who works on this work of youth well-being, and it comes to, it's very sensitive. There you go. Whether involved in the work group, presenting to me, and that's and I know many of the leadership team, that those are partners, And part of our infrastructure development is we're going to make it more formalized, because we want to understand people's roles and how they can engage. And then
these are all partners?
Yes.
That's a lot of partners.
Yes, some of it is like some are active partners, and some have been, contributing to the newsletters or participating. But like again, because this is a transition year, I feel like this is not a place to close the doors and make it more inclusive, right? Because that's how we can decide what we want to do in the long term. But more, lastly, I wanted, a couple more things I wanted to show you on Project Safety Net website. Is especially that I know that you are going to be working on some mental health forum or campaign. We have here media guidelines for mental health promotion, suicide prevention, and I actually, as part of your packet, and if there's there's no public people in the public, I had put some copies there to pick up. But what these media guidelines do is really how to address your messaging, especially with suicide issues, so that it doesn't increase the risk of their vulnerability. But really, how do you use your language in a way that's empowering and resilient? And I think this also came in response, because I believe last year or a year and a half ago, PSN hosted a media seminar with Dr. Madeline Gold from Columbia University that really was a national expert about how we message. So it's not only the mainstream media, but even us. And when we're developing our website or doing our flyers or our tweets, it's being mindful of that. So this is just a shorter version, but if you go to our website here, you can get more information and toolkits. And then if you're not receiving our newsletters, please sign up. And we also have archives. And then we have our Facebook, and this is really the more active one, dynamic. I think we have about 611 likes. So, like for instance, when you launch your human, like I think your forum, or in the past you had sort of those dialogues. We promoted it, especially if it would impact the youth. And then finally we have our I have to
And
log
I would
in.
say, just as far as the Facebook page, that used to be something that was very static, that
Yeah.
maybe once a month we would do something to, and if you haven't liked it in the past, I would suggest liking it now. It's completely dynamic. Tanya probably posts something every day or a couple times a day, and it's really either inspiring quotes, it's suicide prevention work that we are doing, our partners doing, but other people out in the community or in the country. And a lot of it is youth focused. A lot of it is you can go on it and see what youth are doing local and nationwide to work themselves on mental health issues and stigma. So it's really inspiring.
Thank you, Minka. And then also, I liked, don't be surprised if you see a Facebook postings like about the Human Relations Commission, like when we're out there and so forth. And then the Twitter account, I have to say, when I first joined, we had like 13 followers. So I think it would keep increasing, but we want this to be, a little bit more dynamic and so forth. I think when I had presented it once before, it was just like we were still in the 20s. So
I'm told that Instagram is what youth and millennials
and
use.
Snapchat and all that stuff.
So I wonder,
Twitter's
might
kinda
think about opening an Instagram account.
So
If Tanya was full-time.
but the nice thing of
More than
that,
Twitter even.
so so that's why in our communication work group, one of their activities is really helping us on how do we engage the youth and make it a tool that's interactive and positive for them, so they're not feeling left out. So in closing, so thank you for your patience. I was just going to share. So October 26th, next Wednesday, is our next monthly community collaborative meeting. Our Youth in Action, presentation will be students and faculty who launched the 2 student wellness centers at Palo that earlier you heard of from Christine. And I think it's going to be very inspiring to hear the youth saying why they wanted this to happen and then to have it come to happen. And then the second one is Project Cornerstone, especially with Anti-Bullying Prevention Awareness Month. And then also, if those who still have children in schools and everything, they're doing their 5-year current assessment. And so I think it's very important to look at that formative phase. So, and then QPR. So I know many of you didn't raise your hand. So the City of Palo Alto offers this for free. They're 2-hour session, a quarterly basis. So the next one is on February 7th. So, however, you don't have to wait 3 months or so. You can also do it on your own via web base, and we have codes that could either contact PSN or contact Minka, and we'll get it to you, and it'll just be self-paced. So I know I went way over, but thank you. Hopefully I brought everyone pretty much up to date, something new, something reassuring, and maybe questionable. Hopefully not.
It was very informative. Thank you so much. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right.
Okay, we'll move on to our next item, which is discussion on the updating the current HRC mission statement. We started this process at the retreat, and Vice Chair Stinger is going to lead us on this discussion.
Let's see, do we all have the mission statement sheets that Minka sent us as attachments?
I
Okay.
got them today.
I think it's here too.
Oh, okay, great. Well, just to start, I'd like to think about what a mission is. And just remember 4 questions about a mission that might help us as we examine our current mission and consider whether we want to adjust it or revise it or change it. The mission should tell us what is the activity, for whom it's done, what's the value, and what can we do that no one else can do. Why is it specific to our commission, and what added value do we bring? What competitive advantage do we have? If it's okay as a process, I'm just going to read through our current mission statement and then some comments that we have in front of us and some comments from our meeting, and then open it up to discussion. The current mission is to address human relations issues, including promotion of awareness, understanding, and resolution of actual or potential conflicts, discrimination, or injustice, while encouraging community building and civic engagement. The draft alternative that we developed as a group during our retreat emphasized actively address, facilitate communication, and diversity. And those were at least 3 elements that we did not see in the current mission statement. We'd asked Minka at that point to see if we could get some ideas of what other communities do. And thank you, Minka, for providing us a list. Some of the things that I saw in these mission statements that we might want to consider are, in the city of Riverside, an understanding and respect between people, which is kind of captured in the words communication. City of Redlands emphasizes an advisory capacity, which is really a definition or a scope of work, and perhaps not appropriate for a mission statement, but it is an interesting concept. Something I noticed in the Beverly Hills mission statement was responsible actions and establishing our city as a model. Los Angeles County talks about transformative activities, which is sort of like our words of saying we want to actively engage. And then we see other cities using investigative, consultative, cooperative, meditative, educational, promotional, and advisory agencies, which is, again, a little bit like a scope of work and not really a mission. It's a method. But the City of Aurora does make a point of changing the population to residents of the city and people who are engaged in the city but are non-residents. And Doyleston picks that out also. So those were some of the options that I saw, and I'd like to open it up to hear what people think of our current mission and our draft alternative as it's written.
I have a comment. I guess one thing that strikes me when I read it is it doesn't quite paint a picture for me. And I think some of these other ones do. That makes it a little more compelling.
Are you talking about the current one or the draft that we have?
Kind of both, actually. But I would say that, so that's one thing. And I don't have the solution, but that was one observation. And the other one is I don't really see our commission as solving problems, as more about shining a light on problems so that people can take action. But I don't see us as a resolution body. So I had a problem with resolving conflicts. I think we point to them and we address them. I think all of those things are true, but do we actually come up with the solution? Now it's almost like we don't pass laws. I guess that's kind of how I see that.
So it seems to me the city of Redlands, HRC serves in advisory capacity. The city council is exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, advising, identifying, exposing.
Right.
It's a good observation.
So Someone else? Okay. I have a couple ideas. First, the current statement. I was part of the commission when it was drafted. I didn't really understand it then, and I still don't understand it. So I think what we're doing now is a good thing. It does need to be changed a little. And just going through all these other cities, the two that I think captured our objectives more than others were Beverly Hills and Doylestown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I like that too.
And especially, I like the establish our city as a model. I think we here in Palo Alto, we would be just so proud to do that. So I think that's something we want to look at. And with the Doylestown one, I like that last line as well. People who live, work, study, worship, travel, play. I mean, that does it all because it's not just people who live here. The population doubles every day with all the workers. So to make sure that's inclusive, I think that would be something we'd want to insert as well.
I agree that I really liked Beverly Hills, how they address it. I like the last part of it, saying and promotes civil discourse and conduct. I'd like to see some language like that inside in our language to promote civil discourse. I think that's.
I don't see that you're talking about in Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hills, yeah.
The last line.
So I'd like to see that in there some way, but I kind of to sort of disagree a bit, I guess, with Commissioner Gordon Gray. That I like that we're trying to take, even though maybe we don't resolve conflicts, typically. I think we have the ability to do that, and I think it is. I like that we kind of take on that challenge and welcome it by saying we're not just going to be a passive commission, but we're actually going to be proactive, and I think that's something that we have worked very hard for over the past several years, is to take on a more proactive role in the community. So I think embracing more action and the willingness to resolve conflicts, I think is a good thing for us. So those would be my two main comments, and I agree with Commissioner Savage that I like the last line of Doylestown. I think that's a good solid ending to the mission statement.
Well, I have comments kind of on two levels. So I think most of you know I'm a writer and an editor. So my editor hat says most of these mission statements are not formulated as true mission statements. They're actually descriptors. So that part of me as an editor doesn't like that. So a mission statement is like on Star Trek. Our 5-year mission is to boldly go. You have to start with an infinitive and list, it has to be formulated in a certain way. And that's how Silicon Valley companies typically do it as well. So I don't want to have a flat description like we shall do this. And I really want it, I think the original formulation was closer to what a true mission statement is supposed to sound like. But on the substantive level, I really take a lot of agreement with what Commissioner Savage said. I think it was written in an abstract kind of way where it is hard, and as Commissioner Gordon Gray said, it's hard to get a clear picture of what some of these words mean. What does it mean to be community building? What does engagement actually mean? So I love that the more specific language that some of the other mission statements use, because I think they paint a clearer picture of what's meant, like to work, to play, to promote civil discourse. Those are all concrete things. So I think that we should try to stick to a formulation that's a true mission statement structure, but let's get some real content in there that I think makes more sense for what we actually do.
I guess to put on my attorney hat to counter it, that's sort of one of the things that I was concerned about with the specificity of some of those. That does someone come back to us and say, oh, well, you said A, B, and C, but right now you're trying to address D, that bit of a conflict there. So I like being able to have enough specificity to be able to show what we're trying to accomplish, but not so much that it ties us down. mean, of course, this isn't our charter, so we're able to go beyond that. But I don't want it. I don't think it should be too specific.
Well, we've actually had sorry to interrupt you, Minkin. We've actually had the opposite problem, though, in the past, because we had a very broad mission statement that said, for example, to address human relations issues, and people would show up and say, hey, that's a human relations issue. Where are you? And it was something where, like, we had been told specifically not to get involved by the city attorney or by city council, but because our charter was so broad, people were angry at us for not getting involved, and it wasn't clear and it wasn't specific enough where and when we would be able to take appropriate action. So being more specific might actually be more protective of us than having this broad charter where anybody can come along and insist that we should be taking ownership. I'm sorry, Nika.
Well, you had the attorney hat, I had this city employee hat. And in consultation with the city clerk's office, which oversees commissions, we are the only commission that has a separate mission statement. They were concerned for a moment till they kind of found out this was just something that did not go to council. It's just something that we just use on our on our agendas and so forth, and they are okay with us doing that, just as long as we don't try to go beyond or have this supersede the authority section that's in the city's administrative code. And I read that last time, but I think the conversation I had with them afterwards is we just have to be careful that whatever we do, it's just something that we realize is we've approved on the commission level. It's not going to be approved by the city council, and it doesn't go beyond any authority that you're given in the city administrative code.
Got it.
And that is, I've read that before. That is quite broad, but
Well, like I said, we're not changing the charter. We don't have that authority.
No.
So.
I'd like to go
But
back
you don't want to make this so radical that that people think, well, maybe this should be approved by the city council.
Yeah.
I'd like to go
Simple.
back to your comments, Jill. That was, when I read these, I thought they were too wordy, and they weren't something I could get my hands around or my head around or my emotions around, and they didn't reflect a typical business mission statement that I'm more familiar with. And so I wonder if it would be useful to take those questions and just say, first, what is the activity? And can we crystallize in 3 or 4 words or half a dozen words, what is our activity? And who do we do it for? And the idea that we do it for residents and non-residents, or use the words that Beverly Hills did. I think we could come up with a mission statement that is both general enough so that we are within city guidelines and legally safe, but specific enough to energize us and energize people who might want to join the commission subsequently.
That's true. That's a good point.
Well, I hate to pass the ball, but to me it's always hard to compose at a table. And I just wonder if 2 or 3 people could be a task force and come back in November with 3 choices.
That's a good idea.
Good.
Yeah, I would take a shot
do
at
that. You should do
formulating.
it, yeah.
You want to work with me?
Yeah.
Commissioner Gordon Gray and I could work together on this and come up with some. I don't
That'd
know,
be
Commissioner
great.
Savage, did you want to maybe, because you're also a fellow writer?
Sure, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Finished. Next one.
Good. All right. That was
Easy.
easy and easy.
So sick.
Well, you deferred it. You didn't. It's not like.
Don't pop our balloon.
I'm sorry.
I already have somebody.
Okay, so moving on, last item, continuing following up from the HRC retreat. So again, which we kind of did a little bit there, but again, we discussed various events or forums to be able to keep the momentum going from the past year or 2, and so right now we're kind of coming to the end of the year. And I want to make sure that we continue our momentum going into next year. And so one thing that we got was this, came up with this wonderful little template. I think Minka and Mary, did you find this, or was this?
I thought of things it should include. I looked for examples on the web, and I did it. So
maybe you're looking for one that we
both,
have done?
It's both and. That one didn't seem to address, that was more of a work plan
Okay, right.
as far as just, yeah, it wasn't more in this format, so.
Well, as always, Mika went above and beyond and formed this great little template for us. And I think, hopefully this will be able to allow us to, the forums that we have already brainstormed of what we'd like to accomplish next year. And I think what our talks was at the leadership meeting was for the commissioners who have proposed projects to be able to come back to us maybe in November with this template as filled out as you can, so we can look at it as a commission, figure out where are some gaps that maybe we need to address. What kind of almost like a business plan to come back to the full commission, so that way we can figure out which forums we really want to be able to push going into next year, and at that point we can have more commissioners sign up once we see the full plan.
Right, and we can get an electronic version out,
that'd be great.
because we wanted Chair Stone to be able to explain it to you and not just include it as an attachment. So then, the lines will expand and so forth.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But I think this would really help in just crystallizing. I think we all have great ideas, but when you go to, it's like, okay, target audience. Really, well, the speakers may look different based on the target audience, so it kind of helps you to crystallize your thinking a little bit more.
Anyone have any questions on this?
Well, one thing I would say is I see a place for possible speakers, but often we have kind of panelists.
Okay.
And so I'm just wondering
Put
if we can
everybody
make
in
sure
there.
that because not all panelists will be speakers per se, but they may be participating in some other.
So you want me to add a line for that, or just put panelists and speakers?
Yeah, panelists and speakers.
Okay, I can do that.
That's good.
Any other thoughts?
No, we have location on there, so that's good.
Does needed resources include, I know obviously most of our things are inexpensive events, but
Money.
is there a budget issue in these or not really?
Are there what?
Like budget issues, considerations?
Yes,
for these?
budget issues. It could be under promotion strategy. You could just say, graphic skills, printing needs,
advertising,
and so forth. Yeah.
One other thing we might want to include is event partners, because I think in the future we're going to try to partner with other organizations.
Exactly right.
That's really good. Okay.
Good idea.
So timeline is basically you set the date and then you say we have 3 months. That's kind of what you're talking about there.
Right. Being able to know what happens in a certain time frame. So when is the event going to be? During
back
this
up from there.
Back up from there.
Milestones. That's good.
I think it's really helpful planning.
Okay, wonderful. So if you did have a forum idea that you've proposed in the past, or even come up between now and our November meeting,
Think about
try
it.
your best to fill this out. Reach out to Mika, myself, or Vice Chair.
Do we have a list of videos?
Not
Mika,
working.
can you revise
Stinger.
it and then resend it to us?
This is what I was planning on doing.
Okay.
And do we have the list of events that we've proposed?
We do. We can send that out. I'll put a note
that'd
to
be
send that out.
Yeah.
Because this is meant not just for forums. If you were thinking, even if it's a smaller group discussion or however,
But whatever we
really
come up
any
with
of the
after
topics that you come up with, I think you could really work through that topic using this
Oh, yeah.
document. So I will say send with topic list.
Thank you. Okay. Move on to reports from officials. Any commissioner reports? Okay.
Wanted to comment that on September 11th, there was a faith-based peace walk, and I think we were endorsers
Yeah.
of that event, and it was just wildly successful, and I think we ought to just acknowledge and congratulate and thank the organizers for doing that community building event in Palo Alto. And then I just wanted to comment that I've been meeting with the provost at Menlo College, who has 2 initiatives that I think are really interesting. One is a Cradle to Grave education initiative, looking at extending educational opportunities in the Silicon Valley. And then also she's starting a council on diversity in Silicon Valley. And they may overlap with some of our programs, going beyond just the Menlo College community. Those 2 things.
Thank you. Okay. And I went to the Project Safety Net meeting, but I won't go into that because Mary covered it perfectly. Okay, Councilmember Wolbach has left, so staff liaison?
Sure, I have a couple things. One is just a follow-up regarding the HRC mission statement. Are you looking to me to schedule the meeting with the 3 of you, or will you do that on your own?
Well, I think I was planning to reach out to my fellow commissioners
Okay.
to see if we want to independently formulate something and then get together to discuss 3 versions. Do we want to get together at our building and then have Daryl join us, or I'll meet at Pete's and I'll buy you all coffee and we'll.
The 3 of us, or is that?
Yeah, I think the 3 of us can figure out whether we want to do this online or in person. But I think
Can we email each other, or is that
If it's a
that violate the Brown Act?
No, there's only 3,
There's only
right?
3 of you.
Yeah.
So I
we can do it offline.
wanted to make sure of that. The other thing is the discussion on HISRAP, possible additional funds for HISRAP. That was going to the Policy and Services Committee technically on October 11th. That meeting was canceled, so that discussion did not happen. They are polling for a new date. There was one tentative date, and then that didn't happen. So I hate to give out a new date till I know. But at this point, there might be a date the first week of November. So, but I will let our 2 representatives know as soon as that comes to pass. The age-friendly initiative, that was something that was brought to you several months ago. A quick update on that is we have met, last time I told you, as a group of professionals, aging service professionals. They did a focus group together. We had a focus group at Avenidas with seniors in the community. We had a focus group at Senior Friendship Day, which was a good group. It was mostly Asian immigrant participants and one Indian American participant. And we're hosting one next week or the week after. I have to look at the specific date at the Sheridan, because we wanted to have a meeting in South Palo Alto and at a low-income housing complex. So for those that are on the committee, I will send out those dates regarding when those focus groups will be. And after that happens, the professional group gets together again and says, what makes sense for some things to suggest as far as to-do items that Palo Alto can do in order to become age-friendly. And then it goes to council to sign a resolution that the city wants to become age-friendly, and then it goes off to the World Health Organization, who looks at our application and accepts us, and then it comes back to us and we start working on these things. So I wanted to let you know that there has been progress on that. I think I'll go. I have something for the tentative November agenda, but I think I'll discuss that in a minute, and you can. That's all for my report.
Okay, perfect. Well, now on to tentative agenda.
Okay, there we go. So one of the things I want to have on the next agenda. So it's a HISRAP year. So HISRAP request for proposals (RFP) will go out probably in December, January. So as part of that, there is always the priority of needs. And the priority of needs is the categories or areas of focus that HISRAP will accept proposals to help address. So this priority of needs has been pretty constant over the years. When we did the big needs assessment in 2012, we made some slight adjustments to it. So that was a really large effort by the Human Relations Commission, incredible effort to assess human needs in the community that involved at least 30 to 40 interviews with individuals, heads of large organizations, probably 15 to 20 focus groups, surveys out to providers, surveys out into the community, and culminated into this 30-page report that Commissioner Onan worked on, some former commissioners, and former Commissioner Ray Bicchetti. Very well received by the council. In 2014, we did kind of an amended needs assessment. So basically, some members of the HRC divided up our HISREP grantees, and we went out and we asked them a series of questions. That subcommittee came together, analyzed the results, and shared them with this body. What I have done this time is I wrote a survey, a lot of it based on our 2012 needs assessment. Mary made it into a survey monkey for me, and I sent it out to not only our HISREP grantees, but to other nonprofits in the community. So I sent it out to at least 42 organizations in the community. To date, I've received like 23 responses, which is 50%, which is a really good response. And I'd like to bring those results back to you next month to have a discussion on that and to really see if there's any adjustments to the priority of needs, because that will need to be included in December in the HISREP RFP that goes out. So that is one of the key agenda items I'd like to bring to you next month. Also heard from Palo Alto Mediation Program. They have hired or recruited 5 new mediators. So if you'd like, they can come. I didn't get the impression they'd bring the actual mediators, but they kind of give you an update on what they're doing, and
we have to approve the new mediators.
We have to. That's true. So it is a little more formal. That's not how he worded it. So I
don't think that Paul Ibarra may be fully aware of that requirement.
And I think I just got the email, so I said, I can bring that to tonight's agenda. So we have these 5 new mediators, so those could be brought to you for your approval at the meeting next month.
The HRC actually approves the new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we actually have to. I think it's required.
I think it's just more of a formality.
I get the impression it's more of a support
of anybody.
We've never, yeah.
No, but I think they have to submit their application, their bio in advance. It's part of our.
You do get that as far as something that you review, but I don't think any of them are expecting to be not approved once the HRC
No. But I think it is a little more. I think we do have to officially do it.
So that's something that could also be on the November agenda. Am I missing something, Mary?
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Anyone else have any ideas for the next agenda?
Well, one thing I do want to follow up on is whatever happened with our study session. I think we haven't had our study session.
I have not. I will look into that again. The last time I looked into it, I did not get. Oh, yes, I did get a response. They thought it would be fun if we came on October 31st on Halloween night, and I politely, without asking you all, declined. So since that, I have not heard back, but I will ask again. But the last time was...
Well, maybe they'll want us back on Thanksgiving.
Christmas Eve.
But thank you for reminding me, but that was just a couple weeks ago when they offered Halloween to us. Also, and the youth council, they offered the youth council to come on Halloween too.
Okay. Must we get candy? I'm not going.
Also for the agenda, we should talk next month about our traditional holiday party, which generally means a shortened meeting followed by
dinner.
Yes.
Dinner.
Okay. So, and I would assume we're talking about the
in December
mission statement again.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And did you want me to look for another speaker for the mental health series? I could try Officer Green again. He is just too busy. He's turned me down 3 times, but he had a good place to be tonight. I know Commissioner Savage was there, Mary was there before she came here tonight. Try him again, or other suggestions that people
I was wondering if we could reach out to Dr. Adelsheim. I heard him speak at the Stanford conference.
Yeah,
He was
he's
very...
doing a special project right now that he's kind of. I will check.
Or Dr. Joshi.
We can check with one of them.
I'd love to have someone. The Stanford folks have really been driving a lot of initiatives around mental health in our community, and I'd love to partner with them when we do our mental health events. So it might be nice to invite them to speak to us first.
Okay, so you're not just specifically looking at youth mental health. You're just
in general.
Mental health initiatives by Stanford.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because both of those are adolescent psychologists.
Right, but if they're not available, they may have a colleague, or someone
I just
that
wanted to get
and
some
we can just get a
clarity.
Stanford connection going, because I think that'll be helpful for us to see from their perspective, which is more of a medical perspective.
Okay.
Can I say something about that? Just very quickly, I actually had a conversation with 2 policemen who were at the scene of a man who was, causing problems and kept calling 911, and he'd be, discharged and he'd call again. Anyway, I talked to them, and it seems like there's not really sort of a pathway for the police. Like they come, they address the problem, but then what happens? Do they call social services? It doesn't seem to be a continuum, and I think it would be interesting to hear from our police department about, besides going to the person and saying, don't call 911 if you're not sick or whatever they don't really, there's not a lot of recourse, and I just think it would be interesting to find out how that gets addressed. So.
Yeah, well, my son addresses that on a daily basis in the Tenderloin, but
well, yeah, I'm talking about right here.
Yeah.
I did see Green today.
Yes.
At the leadership program, and he was thinking of January.
Okay, that's good to know. January. Agent Green.
All right, wonderful. Well, then with that, we're adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you say?